Hi everyone. Do you have obsessive thoughts about your sexuality? Do you sit for long periods of time ruminating about what your sexuality is? Do you feel fear or anxiety when you think about your sexuality or your orientation or gender identity? It may be that you are suffering from a specific form of OCD called HOCD. So today I'm going to tell you a bit about that. I'm going to be telling you what it is and perhaps how you can find out whether you might be suffering from it, and then I'm going to be giving you some information about what you can do to hopefully heal and recover from HOCD. So watch this video. To Not Defining. I'm so happy you're here. If you're watching this video, it might be that you've experienced some obsessive thoughts about your sexuality. You might think to yourself, well, surely we all get confused sometimes about our sexuality. Surely we all have periods of confusion and trying to work out who we are. Maybe before we come out, or maybe when we're younger. That's perfectly natural. But for many of us, and particularly those of us who have a complex orientation or a sexuality that's not well defined, we can suffer from what we call HOCD or OOCD. It is a particular subtype of OCD where the brain cannot stop thinking about the nature of a person's sexuality. So I'm going to explain what it is. First of all, OCD in general, for those of you who don't know, is obsessive compulsive disorder. This means that your brain experiences intrusive thoughts. Okay, so thoughts come in, you can't control them, they're very, very distressing. And these are called obsessions. And most of the time, those obsessions will lead you, the person suffering from it, to perform repetitive actions. And the point of these repetitive actions or compulsions is to try to rid the brain of these painful obsessive thoughts. So the thoughts come in, you try and do obsessive actions to try to order the thoughts or to get away from the thoughts. And this can cause a huge amount of distress. It's worth noting at this point that unfortunately a lot of people in popular culture have brought the term OCD into common parlance. So you might hear people saying, oh my goodness, I'm so OCD, I like to order my post-its in a particular way, otherwise I just feel uncomfortable. Unfortunately, this is ableist language. This is really irresponsible language because OCD has nothing to do with just being organized or liking things in a certain way. OCD is actually a very debilitating condition. It is a mental disability and it requires very serious treatment. So that's OCD. HOCD or OOCD stands for homosexuality OCD or orientation OCD. This is actually one of the most common subtypes of OCD. It means that when your intrusive thoughts are coming in, most of the time they are to do with the nature of your sexuality. So you might sit in school or in work or just going about your day, and you will have an intrusive thought about, let's say, being attracted to the same sex. And this intrusive thought will trigger you, it'll make you feel very anxious, you will feel worried and scared, and you'll feel incredibly uncomfortable. And then what will often happen is that the thought will go round and round around your head, and you will start to try to fix the thought. And you'll start to think, okay, I'm attracted to this guy, for example, what does this mean about me? What does this mean about me? Does it mean I'm gay? Does it mean I'm straight, but I'm just having a strange thought? Does it mean I'm bisexual? What is it about this guy that's attractive? What is it about men in general that are attractive? Does this mean that I'm not attracted to women? Maybe if I've got a girlfriend, does this mean that I don't love her? What's this going to mean about me? Etc, etc, etc. And it spirals and spirals and spirals. And you might try and act out compulsions to get rid of the thoughts. So you might kind of try and not look at any guys, or you might try and write down your thoughts constantly. You might obsessively look at pictures of women or pictures of men and try and compare them, or some other kind of compulsive behavior which will ultimately prevent you from getting on with your day. And so what is HOCD and why does it occur? Well, OCD in all its forms fundamentally comes from fear. Okay, so there is a fear about a part of ourselves which we are extremely traumatized about. With HOCD, of course, the fear is that you might be gay, or the fear is that you might have some kind of LGBT identity, or the fear might even be that you're a different gender to the one that you were assigned. Sometimes this is called gender dysphoria. People might be familiar with this term. Gender dysphoria and HOCD are extremely linked because they both reflect a fear and an anxiety about the nature of your gender or your sexuality. Okay. Ultimately, it comes from fear, and when we experience triggers, so if we are attracted to someone of the same sex, for example, we are extremely triggered and we feel fear because we go, oh, I don't want to be this. I want to be straight. I want to be normal. I want to be what I'm expected to be. I want to be a man. I want to be masculine, whatever it is. And we go, oh, I don't want this, don't want this, don't want this, don't want this. And so we try and do everything that we can to try and stop it. I experienced OCD, HOCD, and it was extremely debilitating for me. I used to sit for hours and write things down, crazy notes, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lines, trying to work out what sexuality is and why I was feeling this way, etc. It's awful. Anyone who's experienced will know it's absolutely horrendous. So, could you be potentially suffering from HOCD? If you sit for long periods of time thinking about the nature of your sexuality, if this is causing you long-term distress, if it's on your mind kind of mostly every day, this could be a sign. If it's preventing you from doing the things you normally do in your day, so getting on with your work, getting up in the morning, enjoying social events, that kind of thing, this may be a sign as well that it's debilitating you. If you are constantly trying to work out what your sexuality is, this may be a sign. If you are engaging in testing behaviors, so you're kind of trying to test out whether you're really attracted to men. Maybe you want to experiment with men to see if you might be bi. These kind of things. Maybe you're looking at pictures or pornographic material and kind of trying to work out what's attractive about men or women or whatever. This might be a sign. Are you triggered by same-sex attraction? So if you're a guy and you see an attractive guy, does that give you that pain and anxiety in your stomach? Are you scared of that? Similarly, if you're a person of faith, you might be kind of constantly trying to reconcile your faith with your sexuality, maybe tempted to engage in conversion therapy or something like this. If any of those points are relevant to you, I would suggest that you look into whether you might have HOCD. Obviously, I'm not a therapist or a doctor, but here's what to do if you think you might be suffering from it. The first thing is go and see a therapist or a doctor. You can see your general practitioner, a doctor, you can go to a therapist. The person who normally diagnoses HOCD or OCD in general is a psychiatrist. That's a psychotherapist who is able to medically prescribe conditions. And what they will normally do is prescribe some form of CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and this focuses on trying to manage your thoughts. Okay, so when the thoughts come in, giving you techniques to manage it. This is very, very helpful for people with OCD. Another thing you might want to explore, though, more generally with a therapist is inner child work. Inner child work is looking deep down at the root cause of the fear that you have about yourself. But go and speak to a professional if you have access, and they should be able to help you. I put some information in the links below, so that should help you access some of that. The second thing is try and talk to someone about it. When we have these obsessions, they stay in our head, and that's what makes them even worse. And I know I used to think to myself, gosh, I could never tell anyone about my thoughts because they're so crazy. But when I actually did start to speak to people, I realized that they understood a little bit more than I thought they would. And it was an incredibly validating process for me. So if you have a friend, a family member, a therapist, anybody who you can talk to, I would really recommend it. Don't be afraid. Just try, just give it a go. You may be surprised. If you don't have anyone to talk to, then please come to me. I am open to anybody. If you'd like some help or support, type in the comments, I'd like support. Just type it in and I will get straight back to you. Give me your details. You can check me out on Twitter or Instagram as well. You can DM me and I provide help, listening, support, signposting to anyone completely free of charge. So you're not alone in this. You've always got someone who's been through it and who gets it. So, hey, you're not alone. The next thing I would suggest is try and write down your thoughts. So take a week, for example, and take a piece of paper, notepad, or maybe even the notes on your phone. And every time you have an obsessive thought, write it down. So write the time and just a line to say the obsessive thought. So I had a thought about being attracted to guys, 8:30 in the morning. Yeah, 9 o'clock in the morning. I saw a guy in the street and I got anxious. Yeah, and so on and so on and so on. What this will do is it will help you to visualize actually how many of these thoughts you're having. Often we just kind of go through our day and we don't really kind of realize how much of our day is taken up with these thoughts. Or on the other hand, we might not realize actually how little time these thoughts take, and that can be helpful to realize as well. The next thing is allocate a time for obsessing. Okay, so if you allocate, let's say 15-20 minutes at the end of a day, let's say at 8 p.m. on a Tuesday, whenever you've got time, allocate that time for obsessing. Then what happens is that as the thoughts come into your head throughout the day, you can go, don't have to think about this now. I've got my obsessing time later on where I can give it my full thought. Okay, and so this can help you just try and avoid having to ruminate during the day. You've got your special time allocated. The funny thing about this is that when I've done this in the past, I get finally to the time where I'm supposed to have my thinking time, my obsessing time, and I actually realized that I don't really want to think about anything because the thoughts are so irrational that really when it comes to it, I don't really care. The next thing is mindfulness. I've put some links in the comments below for some mindfulness apps. Mindfulness is so great if you're having obsessive thoughts. It can help to really center the mind. And the final thing is you may wish to explore medication with a doctor or a psychiatrist in concert with therapy. Medication is not a bad thing. It can be very, very helpful. So, I hope you found this video useful. Please share it with one other person who you think might find it useful. And please, if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel. It really helps us out. I'm going to be posting loads more about this. You are not alone. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to speaking with you again soon. Bye for now.